Well, welcome back to Scuttlebutt Lodge, and today I have a special guest who's traveled a long way to come up to Scuttlebutt Lodge. Um, Cheryl Moore has driven up here, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you,
here,
Randy.
Cheryl.
Appreciate it.
Well, I should say um, I do apologize. I've been offline. I haven't been as active lately, but late in April I was stricken with Lyme disease,
Yeah.
and that put me out of commission for some period of time. The docs say a COVID infection had triggered a Lyme um, illness in me, but it's been
You're
fixed,
coming around.
and I'm been corrected and back on my feet again. So,
Happy to hear it.
so sorry for the not being as vocal and active as I tend to be. But Cheryl, we know that there's been a book, the first volume of a book put out called The Sovereign. Um, this is the first edition, first volume. There's now 4 volumes have been published.
Correct?
Cheryl is an author
I
in
am.
the 4th volume, and she's going to share a bit of her story, why she put paper to pen, and is sharing her thoughts and views of the COVID calm and how it impacted her. And I will say, it's really important for all of us to write down and read what happened during COVID, not just the government narrative and storyline that you hear in the media, but truly we learn from history. We learn how to prevent future catastrophes or tragedies if we document our experiences and record them for history, whether it's video or the written word. But that is indeed the way we get better as a society, get better as people, and learn and share our knowledge. So Cheryl,
Yes,
tell
sir.
us a little bit about the Sovereign
Okay.
and your story.
You bet. First, I just want to thank you, though. This is my second time coming to visit Randy at the Scuttlebutt Lodge, and I'm really happy to be back here this year. I have learned a lot from you. I am so thankful for everything you did for all of us during the pandemic. But I'm happy you're going to come back
Yep.
onto your podcast forum, because I've learned a lot through everything you've shared since then and did with my visit. So get yourselves up here to this beautiful log cabin, this Airbnb. Come visit Randy here at Scuttlebutt. I am telling you, it's a history lesson. So
Well, that's very generous, and thank you.
yeah, and maybe the sharing we had last year helped me to kind of come out of the closet a little bit myself. I don't
Right.
know. So my story is kind of a personal and a professional one. I'm a social worker. My whole career has been dedicated to trauma and grief. I am very aware at this stage in history that we are suffering collective trauma as a society after everything that we've been through. And recently, interestingly enough, had my annual general meeting where they spoke about exactly that, managing personally and professionally in the ongoing changing times that we're facing. And the thing that was acknowledged, and of course I decided to write this book, it started 8 months ago, but the thing that was acknowledged in this meeting is the ongoing divisiveness and the ongoing silencing that's happening for everyone. We just don't talk about what we've been through.
Mm-hmm.
So with respect to the Sovereign, this incredibly beautiful woman out in Alberta, an entrepreneur, decided to put on her own radar. She had already published a number of authors, and because she was struggling herself with the experience in 2022, she put on her own radar that she should come out and tell her story about her frustration, and decided to do it as a collection. So it's 15 authors. She looked for people that wanted to share at that time specifically a pandemic-related story, and title being The Sovereign, the stories are meant to be people who found a way to stand in their truth, to reclaim their power, and those stories covered the spectrum.
Yeah.
They could have been people who lost their business, they could have been people who had health issues. They could have been people who stuck up about the mandates. It was across the spectrum. And the goal being, to your point of history making, that if we don't have a way to mark legacy, then going forward in the future, that impact will be lost. And so she really wanted to make sure that she could be a part of history by doing that.
Yep.
So,
So each volume
yeah,
has about 15 or so authors.
correct.
They're short stories, so they're very, they don't take a long time
No,
to read each one.
Each one's its own little chapter.
And they are personal stories.
Yeah.
And they cover a broad breadth of experiences by individuals.
Yeah.
And how they, from the ones that I've read, I haven't read them all yet, and I haven't read yours yet either.
That's okay.
Our
book, the new books, volume 2, 3, and 4, only launched a few days ago.
Right.
So I have yet to get my hands on my own copy.
And they are available on Amazon.
They are.
But they are truly, we saw during COVID a great darkness, a great period of anxiety and stress and fear, but it also, that adversity and that challenge made and compelled many people to find a way to overcome that adversity.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, really maybe captures how do we gain agency over our own actions, our own lives, and not just be pawns to the fear and the narrative of governments.
Yeah.
Because I think I can say, Cheryl, with some certainty, that there will be another narrative.
Correct.
There will be another calamity and catastrophe, and once again, people will be hard pressed to understand how to overcome the next one.
Yeah.
So, reading how people did it in the last time may be very a good how-to instructional booklet.
Well, and I think inspiring.
Yep.
I mean, so Sarah Swain's the publisher of the book, and her goal when we chose to be a part of this creation was to tell the story of oppression. So the books now are not necessarily all pandemic related.
Yep.
They can be any oppression, let's face it. We've got religious oppression, educational oppression, financial oppression. It's across the board, right? Health oppression. So what is the story? But it is meant to be like, how did I get through that so that what we leave is an invitation to be inspired and hopefully to have hope that people can find their way to stand in their truth. Because honestly, the stories are heavy, they're pretty intense, and if they were just written as, oh, poor me, this is horrible what happened, you wouldn't want to read it, right? The goal is to hopefully leave everyone saying, wow, if those people could do that, maybe I could do it too.
Yeah. Well, I do think there's stories in there that, from what I've seen, for, as an old adage would go, for every purse in every pocket.
Something that it'll speak to you.
They're short.
Yeah.
If one doesn't capture your attention or interest,
something else.
Put it down. If you are reading, you can. It's not like a 1,000-page novel.
Right. 10 to 12 pages.
10 to 12 pages each story. So nice, short, sweet, and to the point, and concise. So.
Do you remember? Because this is kind of our generation, there was a group of books for a long time called Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yes.
So I like to think of these as a gutsy version of Chicken Soup for the Soul. It's kind of the same idea, right? There's stories of people surviving through various kinds of grief and trauma and oppression in their life, but they're pretty gutsy.
Yeah.
They're pretty gutsy because of the times we're living in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there will be more.
There will be more. So do you want me to say a bit about my story?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'll try not to get emotional, but I do. So, I'm going to do my best to take a breath. So, my story is pandemic related. It was about my father dying in 2021 in the hospital when we were still in lockdowns. And that journey and that first 18 months of COVID, I was his power of attorney and caregiver. He lived in a retirement home. And his death was tragic, difficult, terrible because of the circumstances. But the whole caregiving of him as someone who was an integral part of his life now being an outsider for those 18 months. And I really, I had other friends who also lost people in similar situations, who died alone in the hospital. I just feel like I needed another layer of closure. When Sarah approached us to participate in this, it came on my radar to participate. Her thing was, write about something you still need closure about so that the experience will be healing for you, and passionate enough that it's going to compel people to want to read it. And so I know I needed another level of closure for myself, but for everyone who experienced that, I needed that story to be told.
Yeah.
I needed to make a mark for those of us who suffered the unnecessary loss of a loved one in what I consider under very cruel circumstances.
There's no question of the cruelty.
So that's the story that I chose to share. It's not easy for me to unsilence myself, but I also felt at this point that so many people have been brave enough to really make a stand out there, like you did, Randy, that a small part I can do is to stand in my own truth and stop allowing myself to feel like I'm controlled by the various layers of fear that exist. So I did it for me, to unsilence myself, to be a part of the legacy, but I hope also that it'll bring comfort to people who experienced a similar loss.
Oh, and let's not diminish this. Your experience was, of having a loved one die in isolation in a care facility was a great magnitude of the deaths during COVID.
Correct.
Was exactly that, the greatest number of deaths.
Yeah.
I forget it was over 70% of the deaths in Ontario
We're institutional.
attributed to COVID were in our government-funded public institutions. That's where the greatest deaths occurred. And husbands, wives, sons and daughters
Parents.
were prohibited from giving comfort and care in that time. So I'm sure people will relate to Cheryl's story.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you'll grab something of relevance and inspiration from it.
And you might even want to write in a future volume. Can I just give a little pitch on that?
Sure, absolutely.
So the vision, if you want to follow on Instagram, Sovereign Acres Publishing, newly launched. The vision of Sarah Swain over time, the next few years, is to unfold 10 volumes of the Sovereign, and then at that point offer them as a box set. And so if you're one of those people that thinks I've got a story to tell, I can tell you just the way this was managed from the perspective of support. You don't have to be a writer to do this. There's so much support throughout the editing process that you are comforted and supported all along the way. So there's 6 more volumes to go, and she will be looking for more authors, and I at some point might also become a lead author on one of the projects. I've really gotten so much out of it. I've made a nice little relationship with Sarah, and am doing some editing and coaching for some of the people writing now, and that might grow into something else. But I encourage you, because so many of us have something really important to share, and this is a vehicle to do it. So if that speaks to you, Randy's going to link up my website and Sarah's website, and you can get in touch with one of us.
Well, thank you very much, Cheryl, and for everyone, I hope you do get a copy of The Sovereign, and maybe even if you don't publish your story, write it down.
Yeah.
Write it down for your own good, your own family's interest.
Your own families, absolutely.
And it will help you. Well, it'll help out yourself and others, I believe. So.
And your children and grandchildren might thank you in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once again, thanks for joining us at Scuttlebutt Lodge.
Thanks for having me here.
Right on. If you liked it, you can hit the like and the subscribe on. This video will be on my YouTube channel, my Substack, my Facebook and Twitter accounts, and they're all pretty simple. Twitter, or X, I guess now, is at Randy Hillier. My Facebook account is at Randy Hillier. And my YouTube channel is at Randy Hillier MPP. And my Instagram account is at Randy.Hillier.
They got to be able to find you with all that going on.
It's I have done my absolute best to use pseudonyms in all my platforms and remain anonymous. Anyway, once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity.
We'll see you again soon.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye-bye.